Hello and welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be continuing the adventures of one of Doctor Who's most grandest, most biggest stories to date. The Dalek Master Plan Part 2, Episodes 8 to 12, written by Dennis Spooner. So after the very strange Festive Stephen, we're back into our Dalek plot. And for this time, these rest of these episodes are only written by Dennis Spooner, so it's very strange, and it's the first time where Dennis Spooner has written solely for the Daleks, even though it counts as the Dalek Master Plan, which is the whole thing. And something I've noticed whilst watching the second half, Terry Nation rarely used the Dalek phrase exterminate. Like, they didn't actually say it in the Daleks. They say exterminated at one point. I think they say it once in the Dalek Invasion of Earth, exterminated. And the first time you actually hear them say exterminate like that is in The Chase. But this is the first story where you actually hear them constantly shout and exterminate, and mainly through the second half. So Terry Nation didn't actually come up with the Daleks' famed catchphrase. It's mainly the Dennis Spooner. So that's quite interesting. So after a very successful first half and a complete deviation with the Festive Stephen, does Part 2 hold up and continue the epic journey of the Dalek Master Plan? I'm afraid it doesn't. It kind of falls flat. Well, I say it falls flat. What I mean is that it's not as good as the first half. It does have a lot of great moments in it, but it's not as big and grand as before, and it feels more like The Chase, where there's a lot of comedy elements in it. And it's basically another runaround as the TARDIS crew jump in through point for the first few episodes in Part 2. But in the first episode, Volcano, the TARDIS gets chased by another time machine, and whilst this is going on, it cuts to the Daleks, and they're working out their time destructor device. And it's here that they realise that the device that the Doctor gave them was a fake. So the Doctor's getting chased by a time vehicle, and he plans to put the TARDIS down in a cricket match and then disappears off again. And that takes place the first half of episode 8. And it's just strange because there's this whole commentary of the match, and then the TARDIS appears, and it's just talking about how awkward this is going to be for the players of the match. And it's supposed to be funny, but it really doesn't work, and it's really distracting. And after this really successful first half, to see this kind of jokey representation of a Dalek story again was really disappointing. But that takes place, that's literally half of episode 8, and it's literally just, I don't want to use the word filler, because that has a lot of negative connotations to it, and people don't really know what filler means. But this is filler. It's literally just there for padding's sake. And so the Doctor lands on a volcano-y planet, as he explains, is a new planet. And then when we cut back to the Dalek story and they realise that the Doctor must still have the device, they then send a time-travelling machine, so it's not the Daleks. And then it's here that we discover who the other time-traveller was. It's the meddling monk from the Time Meddler. He's just in this story for some reason. And it's not like he becomes a big part to the finale. He's in 3 or 4 episodes and then he's completely gone. But when I first watched this, the first time I watched this, years back, when I first marathoned all these, I hated the fact that he was in it, and it kind of really distracted from the Dalek story. But the more I watch it, and the more the fact that it's Peter Butterworth excels at that, what the hell are you doing here kind of humour. He absolutely nails it, and every time I see him, I chuckle and laugh. As he explains that he basically freed himself from 1066 and he trapped the Doctor on this volcano planet. However, as he like breaks the lock. However, the Doctor fixes the lock easily, and you see the meddling monk like cursing his revenge. And yeah, that's episode 1, and it's very strange. Episodes 2 and 3 are set in Egypt, which is really cool. Our first Egypt story, I kind of wished the Doctor Who would tackle an Egyptian story, like a pure historical, something like Marco Polo or the Aztecs. So it is, I was kind of disappointed that an Egypt story for the Doctor was only just like a segment of a bigger story. And I hate it when stuff like that happens. It really distracts, and you're really getting into like the Egyptian themes, the Egyptian style of it, and the setting and stuff. But what takes it away is that it's, you're not going to be interested in the story too much because there's an even bigger story going on. However, there's not much in terms of plot of the Egyptians on their own, so it does feel less like its own little thing and more like it is a part of the Dalek master plan. As the monk and the Doctor land, but also the Daleks land, and they don't know that this has happened yet. So the Doctor, Stephen and Sarah are like exploring Egypt, and they are and they get kidnapped by Egyptians whilst they see the Daleks, and the monk kind of tries to like foil the Doctor, but then he gets in contact with the Daleks, and Marvin Chan, who's with the Daleks at the time, he like gets the meddling monk to work for him because he knows that the monk hates the Doctor. However, the monk actually warns the Doctor, so maybe the monk isn't so bad after all. So, but yeah, and episode 10, which is the second half of the Egypt story, actually exists in the archives, in the BBC archives, and man, does this story look good. There's just one shot in particular that I absolutely love, where they show the sun, the Egyptian sun, and like it kind of blurs, and then it becomes like the shine of a Dalek helmet, and then you see the eye stalk like come into view, and that bit is just phenomenal. But the whole episode just looks absolutely stunning. And so Stephen and Sarah escape from the Egyptians, and they find the monk, and they try and as after he has a talk with the Doctor ties him up and makes him act like a mummy. But anyway, the monk, Stephen and Sarah then get kidnapped by the Daleks, and there's a brilliant scene, an absolutely phenomenal scene in part 10 where the Doctor basically has to bargain with the Daleks, and he has to like make a deal with them, but on his terms. And man, William Hartnell is absolutely phenomenal. If it's on YouTube, I highly recommend you watch it. It's just when he drops his old grumpy performance, and he's the full on like antagonist of the Daleks, it just really works. But anyway, an whole escapade happens, and the Doctor was actually forced to give Marvin Chan the device. However, whilst this happens, the Egyptians actually attack the Daleks, and the Daleks just murder the Egyptians in a very brutal scene. The body count is really high in this story. And the Daleks don't say exterminate, they don't. I mean, they do when they're like warning, but when they're just firing, they don't like shout exterminate, they just shoot them silently. And man, that scene really works. But yeah, and then the Doctor kind of takes a device from the meddling monk's TARDIS, and he puts it into his machine, into his TARDIS, and then when the Daleks escape them to go back to the planet Kemble, and then the monk goes into his TARDIS, not realising what the Doctor's done, and he gets marooned on an icy planet. And that's the end of the monk in episode 10. He appears for episode 8, 9 and 10 of the Dalek Master Plan, and then he's completely forgotten about. And for some reason, despite the fact story-wise it really doesn't work, Peter Butterworth is fantastic, and he excels at like the whole "what the hell are you even doing here, meddling monk" kind of scenario. So I'm a bit 50-50 on his role in this story. Well, he doesn't actually have a role. He's just sort of like, he can easily be written out to the story and it would still work. But I digress. So the Doctor and the crew land on the planet Kemble, and we get back into fantastically written back Doctor Who, thank God. And there's this whole thing where Marvin Chan, he goes to the council and he basically is like, the Dalek Supreme has put me in charge of all of you. But the Daleks are just like completely silent, and you see them like move away without the councilmen noticing. And then like a fence puts up, and even though everybody's like, okay, the Daleks have betrayed us, Marvin Chan is still like, the Daleks owe me a favour, they work for me now. So Marvin Chan is just, it's funny how everybody can see that the Daleks are going to betray them, except for Marvin Chan. It's actually pretty funnily written. Stephen and Sarah kind of lose the Doctor. It's not really explained well. He just sort of disappears and then reappears in the last episode. So they go to the Dalek city on Kemble and they find that no Daleks are there, and they find the council, and they kind of let them free so that the other council people can warn their galaxies that the Daleks are going to invade, as the Daleks have got their time destructor working. Oh, by the way, at this point of the story, we have no idea what the time destructor does. So, you know, a lot of people didn't like that in this story. I know in Mr. TARDIS's Dalek Marathon, he points that out. But for me, I like how it's kept, the device is kept a mystery until the final episode, until we actually see what it does. It really puts because we don't know what it's going to do, but obviously it's going to do something with a name like the Time Destructor. It's got to do something big. The Doctor has no way of working out how to stop it because he doesn't even know what it does. So cool. And then Stephen and Sarah find like an underground Dalek base, but before they could even like go in it and sneak in, Marvin Chan finds him with a gun, still thinking that if he be loyal to the Daleks, he'll be rewarded. He takes them to the Dalek Supreme, and then the Doctor kind of like pops up from the shadows. And there's a fantastic moment where the Daleks are like, our alliance has ended, and then Marvin Chan's like, I give you these prisoners, I should be rewarded, and the Daleks are like silent. And Marvin Chan thinks that means that basically he's gotten through to them. So he gives these Daleks commands. It's like, you do this over there and you do that. And they just stare at him silently. And the tension kind of builds as like he slowly realizes that, yeah, this isn't going to work. And then one of the Dalek Supreme is like, wait until he runs out and then shoot him. Because he might destroy all the equipment in the room. And then Marvin Chan like runs out petrified as the Daleks gun him down. Another brutal scene that makes the Dalek Master Plan a well worth watch. Man, brilliant. Just fantastic. And so the Doctor steals the Time Constructor and he tells Stephen and Sarah to leave. He heads straight to the TARDIS as he slowly backs away from the Daleks as they might shoot them, and he actually holds one prisoner, which I find really funny. They take a Dalek and he kind of like pushes them like in front of them, so he takes a Dalek prisoner, which you never see. That's really funny. So Stephen runs out in the forest, not realising Sarah isn't following him, and then Sarah kind of stays with the Doctor. Now, I haven't mentioned Sarah Kingdom a lot in this story. I think she has a really great idea, this whole, like, she's originally a military force for for our opponent, Marvin Chan's army, and she slowly realizes that she's working for the baddies, and she teams up with the Doctor. But it never really goes anywhere. It doesn't really fill anything. She just kind of becomes like a regular companion. She's not that tough. She kind of has like a lovable, sweet character that we've seen like a few times before in the series. So I was really disappointed with Sarah Kingdom. However, it is important to note that between the Fest of Stephen and part 2 of the Daleks Master Plan, Big Finish has made a whole series of stories with this TARDIS crew, and it might have actually helped with her character. I know in one story it deals with her with how she feels about killing her brother. And fun fact, in one of these stories has the first time the Doctor meets the Sontarans in chronological order, which is really cool. I did wanted to review them as and that's why I've split these up. I kind of made the thumbnails first and then I decided to review them, but because of this virus that's been going around in Britain and we're in lockdown, I wasn't able to get them in time. So I still split these up. Maybe in the future I would listen to them after I've marathoned them. So there you go. But anyway, the Doctor takes the time constructor and they slowly run into the TARDIS. And there's a great moment where the Doctor turns around and he looks at Sarah and she's like really old. And she's like, don't worry about me, let's get back to the TARDIS. And whilst they're running, the forest becomes a desert, a blizzard of just sand, and it's like a desert. And then like Sarah becomes like a really old woman and she kind of collapses under the floor dead as the Doctor collapses just outside the TARDIS. And Stephen then sees this and opens the TARDIS doors, not realizes what's happening. He goes to Sarah, looks at her, and she's bones. She's dead. So yeah, the story not only has our first companion death, but also our second. God, this story is really bleak. And this is what the time constructor does. It basically ages everything on this planet, and it's just incredible. And he tries to help the Doctor, and the Doctor's like, no, get back to the ship as soon as possible. I'll be there. The time effect might affect you. And Stephen goes in unaffected. And the Doctor like kind of crawls, and you can hear, this is a lost episode, so you can only hear it. You can hear William Hartnell really struggling to get into the TARDIS. And whilst this is happening, Daleks appear and they see the Dalek time destructor and they try shooting it, but no effect. And the metal of their tanks kind of also melt, and they're only just become like blobs in the sand. And then the TARDIS time constructor kind of like dissipates as the energy runs out. And then the Doctor and Stephen leave the TARDIS, and man, the last few seconds of the story are phenomenal as the Doctor's like, Sarah, she did it. She might have died, but she did what she really wanted to do, and that's to stop the Dalek invasion. And he's kind of like seeing like the positive side, that like the Daleks are destroyed and the universe is safe. But Stephen is having none of it. He's like, Doctor, all this death, Katrina, Sarah, and then the Doctor's like trying to comfort him. It's like, yes, we will never forget them. They saved the universe. The sacrifices weren't in vain. But Stephen is just like, he just screams out, Katrina, Sarah. Just, man, really emotional ending. And then they go into the TARDIS and it vanishes. And that's how it ends. And man, what a fantastic final episode. Some of the visuals as well. I don't know if it's the same in the actual episode, but the visuals of seeing like the desert speed up. There's a bit where, and Stephen, he looks up and the clouds are moving really quickly and it just really works. So yeah, that's the Dalek Master Plan Part 2. So what did I think about the story overall? with the exception of the Festive Stephen, because that one's supposed to be part of the Daleks master plan anyway, so we'll forget about that. I think it starts off really strong. The bits with Aaron Kemble, I think, are fantastic. Well written, well executed. However, in the second half, with the Egyptian story and the episode Volcano, it does keep kind of being like, right, this is 12 episodes and we're not ready for the finale yet, so let's like pad it out a bit. And as well with the Egyptian story, even though it is actually really good and well written, it does feel like that an Egyptian Doctor Who story should be its own thing, except for not be a part of a grand story. So there you go, I finally finished the Daleks master plan. I hope you enjoyed, and let's go back. From now on in the First Doctor era, we've just got a bunch of four-parters. So there you go, I've got this one out of the way. Hooray! So join me next time where we have a pure historical, if I remember correctly. So I'll see you then on the Doctor Who Marathon.